Hi folks, finally I'm doing my Mars going direct video, and I feel like I've done so many videos on Mars in Cancer and Leo, going all the way with, Mars takes about 45 days to get through a sign and therefore a house. I use whole signs, and by the way, this question has been coming up recently, so I'll just say it up front. This is Western astrology, and I use the tropical zodiac. And in my practice, I use the whole sign, WHOLE house system, which let me just take care of business right up for the next 45 seconds. There are 3 ways to engage with me. One, you can watch the content that is put out for free on this channel. You can also, number 2, become a member for $6.99 a month, and I put sign-specific content and any astrological instruction and information in the member portion. So far, I've only started the membership channel like about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. Thank you to everybody who has joined that. But sign-specific, and the sign-specific videos, really, from my perspective, are for your rising sign. You can see them for whatever you want, but see them for your rising sign. And then third is, if you want a personal reading with me, my email address and information on memberships is in the description box below. You can use that to get in touch with me. I'm running 2 specials on readings: a 30 to 40 minute $50 reading centered around one subject or question or topic. And this is something I've started to do while Mercury is retrograde. So on April the 7th, I'm going to stop doing the $50 reading. The single topic reading is always available. It's just not $50. So the special is on till about April 6th, 7th. And then there's a 60 to 75 minute $100 reading on the astrology of February, March, and April, the 2 eclipses, and Venus and Mercury retrograde. And that is going to be available till the end of April. Okay? Thank you for listening to that. And I'm trying to get better at just keeping things relatively succinct. So Mars, as I said, takes about 45 days to get through a particular part of our chart. And Mars, of course, has been in Cancer, and it dipped into Leo, but then back in Cancer, and still currently in Cancer since September the 4th. So September 4th to November 4th, Mars was in Cancer. November 4th, Mars moved into Leo, but then on December the 6th, Mars went retrograde. And on January the 6th, Mars retrograded back into Cancer, where he has been since January the 6th. And Mars went direct on February the 23rd, and Mars moves out of Cancer and into Leo on April the 18th. So once again, Mars retrograde, direct retrograde, it's been going on since Mars entered Cancer on September the 4th. It's like, think of it as 2-month blocks. September 4th to November 4th, Mars in Cancer. November 4th to January 6th, Mars in Leo, but in the middle of that, on December the 6th, Mars went retrograde. January 6th to April the 18th of this year, Mars is in Cancer, and on February the 23rd, Mars went direct. So Mars went direct, about 3 weeks ago? And Mars is going to remain in Cancer, is moving forward, and on April the 18th, he's going to move into Leo, and he's going to be in Leo for 2 months till June the 17th. Now, typically, Mars is in any part of the sign for a month and a half, but because Mars is moving slowly and gathering momentum, Mars is going to be in Leo for 2 months. Now, Mars has been retrograde between 17 degrees of Cancer to 6 degrees of Leo, and during this time, Mars is making 3 trines, 1 square, and 1 opposition. The squares to Chiron in Aries. The trines are to Saturn, Neptune, and the North Node, and the opposition is to Pluto. Now, those are not the only aspects that Mars is making, because we've got Mars in Cancer and moving into Leo, and we've got the Sun and Mercury and Venus in Pisces moving into Aries. There are, of course, trines, which is nice, that the personal planets are also making to Mars. And because Mercury and Venus are retrograde, those trines, there can be multiple trines. So, for example, Venus trining Mars occurred on January 25th, will occur again on April the 6th, and there's going to be one on May 22nd. Mercury trining Mars occurred on February 23rd, and then there'll be one on April the 11th. So there can be multiple of these. Now, this is just a lot of dates and a lot of data that I've spun out at you. I just want to give you that context. I did a video earlier this year called Purge, which was one of my more popular videos at the beginning of this year, again, that had to do with Mars going retrograde. And I think I did it around Jan the 6th. When we entered this year, and when in the beginning of this year I was running a special during January around, you know, what is the astrology of 2025 and how could that relate to your birth chart? I talked about the fact that the astrology from January till the middle to the end of April, and some of this energy continues till the end of the first week of June, was just one blob of energy. So I have not been doing monthly overviews because it was all just concentrated into, the energy was really concentrated into a couple of parts of the chart, Pisces and Aries and Cancer and Leo on some level. I'll put a link to that Purge video that I did, you know, at the end of this video, so you can have that to refer back to. And by the way, it is Sunday, and typically on Sundays and Mondays I do my weekly overview, but the weekly overview for next week was done a couple of days ago, so it's already on the channel, and I'll put a link to that too at the end of this video. So all right, so bottom line with everything that's been said so far, Mars has been in Cancer and Leo since September the 4th of 2024. And Mars only leaves Leo on June the 17th of this year. Mars went retrograde December 6th, direct February 23rd, and moves from Cancer to Leo on April the 18th. And has already twice squared Chiron, trined Saturn, trined Neptune, opposed Pluto, and trined the North Node. The reason why I am doing this video now is that Mars is now direct. And Mars is getting ready to make his final square, trines, and opposition. And we know that the broad message astrologically till February 26th, but especially in March and April of this year, is to, say it with me, stabilize the Pisces part of the chart, where Neptune has been since 2012, creating a certain amount of fogginess and chaos and loss and possibly deception, but also just making it difficult to handle or manage matters related to the Pisces part of the chart with discipline and rigor, whether it's setting boundaries or getting things done or showing up responsibly. Now, we've also said that Neptune's transit through the Pisces part of the chart could mean that you have been wanting to head in a Neptunian direction in that part of the chart. Creative, artistic, inspired by the muses, spiritual, monastic, practices that sort of erase the ego, healing the collective, those kinds of activities. Now, currently, we've got Saturn and the North Node and Neptune in Pisces. And we've got Venus and Mercury retrograde in Aries. At the end of this month, March, Neptune moves into Aries. The sun, of course, will be in Aries by the 21st. But in Pisces, we will have Saturn, the North Node, and Venus and Mars will retrograde back into Pisces. So the month of March also, as a reminder, is our Pisces month that was created by the new moon in Pisces on February the 27th. From February the 27th to March the 29th is 4 weeks of activity, action for us to bring the Pisces part of the chart into alignment, with resolutions showing up really after Mercury goes direct on April the 7th and Venus goes direct on April the 13th. So I would say resolutions likely show up between April the 20th to 27th in the Pisces part of the chart for now. And then there's another wave of bringing the Pisces part of the chart into alignment that starts up in September of this year when Saturn comes back into Pisces till February of 26, when Saturn and Neptune leave Pisces practically hand in hand. I can't, for you, track what Mars did when he first was direct and trined and squared, trined Saturn, Neptune, the North Node, squared Chiron, opposed Pluto, and then went retrograde and opposed Pluto and did the squares and the trines again, and now is direct. And the trines to Saturn and Neptune, of course, happened between Mars in Cancer and Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. The North Node trine, 2 of them happened when Mars was in Leo and the North Node was still in Aries. But this last one that's going to happen is going to happen when Mars is in Cancer, because then the North Node is in Pisces. Mars squaring Chiron from Cancer to Chiron in Aries. Simple. Mars opposing Pluto has been a little bit more complex, because we've had 2 oppositions from Mars in Leo to Pluto in... No. We had 1 opposition from Mars in Cancer to Pluto in Capricorn when Mars was first direct. And then the other 2 oppositions are Mars in Leo to Pluto in Aquarius. All of this with Mars. Now, Mars is when planets like Mars go direct, they move forward somewhat slowly, and then they gather momentum, and then they start to move forward. Even as late as April 18th to June 17th, Mars is still slower than normal, because it does not typically take Mars 2 months to get through a sign, and it's going to take Mars 2 months to get through Leo. Which means that, for the last 2 weeks of April, Mars is still slower than normal. Our primary aim and purpose right now is to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart so that enough of it can be brought into control, so that we can, during April, but especially in May and the first week of June, really lean into the North Node in Aries energy, Uranus and Taurus, Gemini making its way through, Jupiter making its way through Gemini. The future state that we're trying to create that has a sense of adventure to it is symbolized by the Aries, Taurus, and Gemini part of the chart. And we're trying to get to that, but we're feeling like a certain amount of past energy needs to be cleaned up and sorted out so it doesn't spill over and sabotage things. I would imagine for a lot of us, March 25 has this element of frustration. We're dying to move forward, and it's not as if strains of forward-moving energy are not showing up. Even last week, we had a Venus retrograde and a stationary Mercury conjunct, and I talked about that in the weekly overviews, that may have talked about future-facing opportunity. But a lot of March, because we're trying to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart, is around cleaning up, setting boundaries, putting some rigor around matters related to the Pisces part of our chart. And as we move into April, and as Mercury clears the retrograde and Venus clears the retrograde, but if you have Mercury retrograde in your chart, as we move, we start to be able to have more time, hopefully, to focus on the Aries part of the chart and the Taurus part of the chart and the Gemini part of the chart, when Mercury's, over the next 2 or 3 months, once we clear these retrogrades. But even in April, we're going to have, as I said, Saturn, the North Node, Mercury, and Venus, and certainly Saturn, the North Node, and Venus in Pisces for practically all of April, and Mercury for the first 2 weeks of April. But the energy opens up more, and there's transformation in April, whereas in March, we are doing the work to clear the slate. Mars from Cancer and Leo, but particularly as he moves forward now in Cancer, through the square to Chiron, but most especially the trines that are coming up one after another. Saturn, the North Node. Now the Saturn North Node trines are coming from Mars in Cancer to Saturn in the North Node in Pisces. Then April 18th, Mars moves into Leo. And from there, he trines Neptune in Aries. And then finally opposes Pluto in Aquarius. Everything is headed to that Mars-Pluto opposition, which is always Mars-Pluto aspects, especially conjunctions, squares, and oppositions, are dynamic aspects. And we are using March and April to create some kind of transformation. And Mars-Pluto oppositions are boundary-setting transits. And I'm going to have to do a special video just on the Mars-Pluto opposition as we get to it. I'll cover the trines when we do the weekly overviews, and they're coming up. For the next week, it's still all about the Sun. The Sun is getting ready to conjunct the North Node tomorrow, and then Neptune eventually, and then the Sun moves into Aries. And the Sun is going to make his conjunctions to Venus and Mercury, or Mercury and Venus. So this week is all about the Sun. And hear about it in the weekly overview I just did a couple of days ago. By the time I'm done, after I'm done posting this general video about Mars and making his being direct and making all these trines, etc. The next set of science-specific videos that I'm going to do for the member part of the channel is going to be about Mars supporting the Pisces part of the chart. That is the thing that I'm trying to convey to you. I'm trying to give you a little bit of energy and oomph, because thank you to those of you who left those comments for the full moon Virgo eclipse when you confirmed that it was intense. There's no question. Heading to that full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, on the day when practically a day before when Mercury was going retrograde, was really unwieldy and kind of exhausting. And it's a full moon, it's an eclipse, Mercury's direct, things are confusing. Even if things are working out, anxiety is in the air, and exhaustion is in the air, and the to-do list spills over, and our emotional and intuitive lives are spilling over, and sleep is compromised, and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot in the astrology, as we stabilize the Pisces part of the chart, that is supportive and saying, well, if you show up to this, if you proactively show up to manage and handle the Pisces part of the chart, whether it is by concretizing ambitious plans, or managing deception, or setting boundaries, or making your agreements with loss, or processing lessons around how you have contributed to things going awry in the Pisces part of the chart, then there's a lot about the astrology that talks to, all right, then if you're showing up to this, then let's help you get some of this past energy sorted out. Let's help you get the Pisces part of the chart into a more manageable space. Let's minimize the energy leaks. Let's try and eliminate the anxiety. Let's get you to a more stable place and an organized place in the Pisces part of the chart. That idea of showing up in a disciplined and a rigorous manner and handling matters in the Pisces part of the chart is symbolized by the Sun being in Pisces and the new moon in Pisces, creating a 4-week window, a month of Pisces from February 27 to March 29th, and Saturn's presence in Pisces since March 23. Saturn is giving you a sense of what is real, what is not real, what needs to be addressed, reflecting on lessons with regard to how we've contributed to the chaos in Pisces, and saying, all right, let's show up and let's clean things up. The planet that is associated with our energy and our drive and our ability to pursue our goals and set boundaries, the hunter-gatherer planet, the male, archetypally male energy, the part of ourselves that protects what we value, that draws a line in the sand. Mars, excuse me, very much this bow and arrow energy, you know, the symbol of Mars with the arrow, going after what we desire, pursuing our goals, taking action to provide for ourselves and those we hold dear, and also managing in that process conflict, competition, setting boundaries where we need to, protecting what it is that we value with Mars. And with Mars, you know, when the male principle gets a little bit awry or starts to lose it, that can be hyperactivity, rapaciousness, not taking no for an answer, which sometimes we applaud. And I don't really think it's something that should be applauded, you know. Sometimes we'll say, oh my God, that person's such a pain in the neck, you know, doesn't take no for an answer. And I think it's a red flag. You got to take no for an answer. You know, we've got to respect each other's no's. But Mars, when is overactive, goes after what he wants. And Mars, of course, in a hyper state can also be injuries and accidents and bull in the china shop and creating injury and war and fighting and aggression. And so with Mars, I always say assertive, not aggressive. But Mars also gives us the ability to go after. Mars gives energy to our ambitions, and Mars protects. It's a necessary energy. And a counterpart to Venus, who when she is in her hyperactive phase can be extraordinarily passive and people-pleasing and polite to the point of duplicitousness. Not saying yes when she means yes and not saying no when she means no, doing what she needs to in order to keep the peace and just kind of keep going. So we need those energies to balance each other, the male side of ourselves and the female side of ourselves. Mars being retrograde between December the 6th and February the 23rd, all I want you to do is to reflect on how since February 23rd your energy has changed and shifted. How much have you achieved in March already that you may have had trouble achieving between December the 6th and February the 23rd? When Mars is retrograde, we lose our energy and our vitality. One of the nice things about Mars being retrograde is that we also can lose the fight in some ways. We let things go. We are much more passive, much more backhanded, much more working behind the scenes. But Mars being direct, especially by the time we got to March the 1st and Mars was starting to move forward, our energy, our ability to get things done, move things around, make things happen, I would imagine, has shown up again. Our vitality has shown up again. And at a time when astrologically everything is pointing to moving towards creating the future that we want to create and handling past issues that have grown awry without appropriate handling, increasingly since 2012, reaching some sort of a crisis point for some of us in 14, 15, 16, and 17, especially 16 and 17. As I've been saying, coming into January, February, but especially March and April are such potent and powerful months to get on top of and to start to handle those past energies and to start to create the future that we want to create. And what is lovely about Mars being direct is that he is broadly so supportive of these efforts as a result of these three trines. And even the square to Chiron and the opposition to Pluto. The square to Chiron, which is what happens first. So what we've got going on is Mars is on March the 26th, Mars will square Chiron. On April the 4th, Mars will trine Saturn. On April the 8th, Mars will trine the North Node. Then on April the 18th, Mars will move into Aries, and the very next day he will Mars will move into Leo on April the 18th, and the very next day he will trine Neptune. And then on April the 26th, he will oppose Pluto. Now, during this time, Mars will also be trining Mercury on April the 11th, just as Mercury is direct and moving out of Pisces and Mars is moving out of Cancer. There is a trine between Mercury and Mars. Mercury in Pisces, Mars in Cancer. Lovely. While Venus is retrograde on April the 6th, there's a trine between Venus and Mars, a retrograde Venus in Pisces and Mars in Cancer. For some people, this Mars retrograde direct energy culminates in the opposition with Pluto on April the 26th. For me, it culminates when Mars in Leo and Venus in Aries, both direct, trine on May 22nd. By that time, all this retrograde energy is done. Venus is back in Aries. Mars is in Leo. They have cleared their shadow degrees, and they create this harmonious trine, as if to say, and it's not going to be May 22nd, it's as we head towards May 22nd. All of this is to say, let's all, the week after the full moon, as I always say, is the best time to get things done. The energies are more balanced. The moon is still more than half full. We're able to be productive. And we're only halfway down with March. We have a month and a half of transformational energy to get through. We have a new moon solar eclipse on March the 29th. We have both Mercury and Venus retrograde right now. We have both Mercury and Venus getting ready to conjunct the Sun at the end of March, which means that they will both lose a certain amount of power. The new moon solar eclipse in Aries, which happens at that 9 or 10 degree mark in Aries where both Mercury and Venus went retrograde, is going to be a boost. It's going to be an opening. It's going to create a month of Aries from March 29th to April 27th. But the month of Aries will be compromised for people who have Mercury direct in their birth chart, because you will not be able to fully experience the flow in the Aries part of the chart until Mercury especially is direct on April the 7th and into Aries on April the 12th or 13th or something like that, and when Venus is going direct. So for a lot of April, we're going to be juggling the future Aries part of the chart and the resolutions in the Pisces part of the chart. But with Mars now direct, Mars squaring Chiron, I don't mind that square, because action has to be taken in the Cancer part of the chart so that Chiron in Aries can continue his healing in the Aries part of the chart. The new moon solar eclipse in 2024 on April the 8th conjuncted Aries, not just to the degree, but to the conjuncted Chiron. When Mercury is retrograde, those of you who've been watching my videos, all this kind of saying Gemini instead of Jupiter and Chiron instead of Aries, and it's just off the charts. And I'm sorry about that. I will slow down a little bit more. But the new moon solar eclipse in 2024 on April the 8th was conjunct Chiron, not just to the degree, but to the minute. And wherever Chiron goes, he's creating a healing and bringing a part of yourself that was separated in your childhood and early teens in the Aries part of the chart back to you. And often with Chiron, the painful part of things is that we're kind of re-exposed to certain wounds, but now from an older perspective, typically, we can feel the hurt and we can try and integrate ourselves back again. empowerment. So Mars squaring Chiron, heading towards that on March the 26th. And Mars is already, the trine with Chiron is happening. It's within a 5-degree orb. I don't mind that square. It places urgency in the Cancer part of the chart for some action to be taken, for a goal to be pursued, for a boundary to be set, to re-empower yourself. And I would imagine that for those of you who know where the Cancer part of your chart sits and where the Aries part of your chart sits, you can feel this, I would imagine, by now. This is the thing, while we are in the middle of this heavy astrology with the 2 retrogrades and the 2 eclipses, and you have Mars from Cancer especially, and then from Leo, to support you. Your energy, your vitality, your pursuing goals and setting boundaries in the Cancer and the Leo part of your chart is increasingly, why am I doing this video even though I've done all these Mars videos? It is to remind you, to alert you, to tell you. Why am I going to do science-specific videos in the membership part of the channel? It is to give you this additional missing piece to say, take the action in the Cancer and the Leo parts of your chart. Pursuing what you need to, setting the boundaries that you need to, because you will need that energy to wrap up during April, stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart and moving towards your future, symbolized by the Aries, Taurus, and Gemini parts of the chart. We can have all sorts of things happen when Mars is retrograde and our vitality is lost. This Mars retrograde is special with these 3 trines to Saturn, Neptune, and the North Node. And Saturn and Neptune need the support. March 26th, Mars squares Chiron. April the 4th, Mars trines Saturn. And Mars is already, because he's moving slowly, within a 5-degree orb of Saturn. Out of the 5 aspects Mars is going to make, the most important one is Mars opposing Pluto on April the 26th. But the second most important is Mars trining Saturn. So if you can feel that energy of your vitality returning and you taking action, you're going to be taking action in the Pisces part of the chart. That goes without saying. All of my recent videos, the new moon in Pisces video, and I've already talked about the fact that Saturn's presence and the month created by the new moon on February 27th and the sun being in Pisces all are pointing to 4 weeks of focused action towards stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart from February 27th to March 29th. But you now also need to incorporate action from the Cancer part of your chart with Mars direct there to help Saturn stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. And then to help, because the trine to the North Node is then on April the 8th, from the Cancer part of the chart, to move and get what you need for your own development out of the Pisces part of the chart. And then you're done with the support from the Cancer to the Pisces part of the chart. And after April the 18th, Mars's energy, once Mars comes into Leo, becomes more forward-looking, because from the Leo part of the chart, Mars is trining and supporting Neptune in Aries, the pursuing of Neptunian goals in the Aries part of the chart. Yet another thing added with regard to what we're trying to create from a future perspective. And then on April the 26th, I've been saying to you in April, as you stabilize the Pisces part of the chart and as you move towards resolution, the astrology in the Pisces part of the chart has a severity to it, because of Venus, when she's retrograde and in Pisces, and as she's moving towards going direct on April the 13th, Venus is going to conjunct Saturn twice, very, very close to each other. Venus conjuncts Saturn on just bear with me here. April the 7th. Then she goes direct on April the 12th. And then she conjuncts Saturn again on April the 24th. And on April the 26th, Mars opposes Pluto. Venus conjuncting Saturn is taking relationship and financial resource, our values, what we value, very, very seriously in Pisces. So as you stabilize the Pisces part of the chart, and as you head towards Venus going direct, but retrograde conjuncting Saturn, and then going direct, and then direct conjuncting Saturn, all that Saturnian energy of handling the Pisces part of the chart in a disciplined and rigorous manner come to a head with these Venus conjunctions of Saturn and Venus going direct. And Venus retrograde is our resources, our money, our values, what we value being put to the test. Is everything in alignment with where we want to go? And our relationships. As we stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. Now, Venus conjuncting Saturn can also mean giving Venusian activities, resource management, money management, income generation, artistic activities, beautification, a seriousness and ambition, business plans, making things happen in a very concrete, ambitious way. Taking action, dutiful action, contemplating cause and effect. As we head to the last 2 weeks of April, and there's the potential for phase 1 of stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart to come to an end, and there being some sort of resolution and peace, which means that till those last 2 weeks of April, things will continue to be rocky. There are going to be days and moments of hope and optimism, and I'm on top of this. And there will be days of, what fresh hell is this? And there will be increasingly, with Mars getting more velocity and getting ready to make that trine with Chiron, saying, all right, come from an empowered place, heal that side of you that was taken away from you in the Aries part of the chart, and let us now from the Cancer part of the chart give Saturn that final push. Mars trine Saturn is a very powerful energy of getting things done and stabilized in the Pisces part of the chart from the Cancer part of the chart. Let's trine the North Node in Pisces. Get from the Pisces part of the chart what it is that you're trying to get from the Pisces part of the chart. Between now and April the 8th, and on April the 11th, a direct Mercury in Pisces will trine Mars in Cancer. Between now and April the 11th, 12:30, it is, all right, we've had the full moon lunar eclipse. We're getting a bit of a breather this weekend, hopefully. And starting tomorrow, we keep going, we keep going, we keep going. Stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. Take action from the Cancer part of the chart. What have we done? What else is left? Where do I need to roll up my sleeves? Where are boundaries still need to be set? What am I creating for myself with regard to my ambitious plans or my artistic plans or spiritual plans in the Pisces part of the chart? How can the Cancer part of the chart support it? We keep going. By the time we get to Venus conjuncting Saturn twice within a couple of weeks, but particularly, and we're headed to that Mars-Pluto opposition, where boundaries need to be set is going to become extremely important. The Mars-Pluto opposition is directly connected to the Mars-Pluto conjunction on February the 14th of 2024. Mars and Pluto conjuncted February 14, 24. Mars has opposed Pluto November 3rd, January 3rd, and now on April the 26th. And it is a culmination point of something that started then. It is, you can think of it almost, it's not technically a full Mars because the sun is not opposite Mars, but you can think of it with regard to the conversation and the events and the activities related to whatever it was that kick-started in the Aquarius part of the chart with that Mars-Pluto conjunction on February the 14th, 24. And Pluto, when he's in his first few years of a house and a sign that he enters, is trying to make very clear what needs to be ripped away, what needs to be dissolved, what ties need to be loosened, so that Pluto can work on the positive transformation on top of those loosening structures and ties. And as we head to April the 26th, it's like a full Mars opposite Pluto. And Mars in Leo is going to have to serve Pluto in Aquarius. And there's a violence to an assertiveness to Mars-Pluto conjunctions and squares and oppositions. Boundary setting. Venus conjuncting Saturn in April. Resolutions, boundary setting, discipline. As I said, we get to reach certain resolutions in the Pisces part of the chart and to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. In the last 2 weeks of April, we will be encouraged to look at certain things that may feel glass half full as glass half empty as glass half full. Have the energy leaks stopped? Is some of the BS clearing? Has enough progress been made to concretize creative Neptunian spiritual ambitions? Have you been able to show up in a disciplined and rigorous manner in the Pisces part of the chart, and now from the Cancer part of the chart to support the Pisces part of the chart also, so that those things that were threatening to spill over and turn into big problems because we were not able to show up to the Pisces part of the chart in a totally disciplined manner, have they been minimized? Chances are with Mercury and Venus retrograde, particularly Mercury retrograde, things kept getting spit back at us. But at least we're on top of it. At least we are in conversation. At least we're in the room, as opposed to simply not being able to be in the room. In getting to a place of greater resolution, do we have more energy now? And a lot of this is going to depend on these next couple of weeks in March, especially continuing to stay on top of the work that we need to do in the Pisces part of the chart. Do we have more energy to focus on our futures? And when Venus conjuncts Saturn those 2 times in April and Mars gets ready to oppose Pluto, we may feel that we have to assert ourselves in certain situations and in certain ways, and also reach agreements in certain ways that can help create some peace for us so that our energy can go in the directions that are more fruitful and exciting and adventurous. And Mars being direct in Cancer and following this sequence, squaring Chiron first on March 26th, trining Saturn on April 4th, trining North Node on April 8th, trining Neptune on April 19th, opposing Pluto on April 26th, and then when Mars is in Leo and all this, and Venus is in Aries, on May 22nd, they trine each other. as if to say, for now, that energy is behind us. Hopefully, it's a little bit like being on an ocean in a sailboat and the sails are loose and flapping in the wind. And what we're doing right now is tying those sails back to the boat, and while the wind is blowing, and tightening those knots. And by the time we get to the end of April, the sails are in the right place so that the wind can get behind us. And some of this wind coming behind us, this March 29th new moon solar eclipse in Aries, is going to help. It's going to help. The sun moving into Aries is going to help. The sun conjuncting Mercury and Venus is setting things up. March is a month of action, but we're also suspended. April is a month of resolution, but there's also transformation in the air. And all of this is to bring you back in connection with Mars direct in Cancer and then moving into Leo, and to say, he's no longer underground, he's no longer slumbering, he's no longer working in a very quiet and passive and behind the scenes way, unable to express his energy. He is now direct. He is now moving forward, slower than normal, but absolutely moving forward. And he is ready till April 18th from the Cancer part of the chart, and from April 18th in the Leo part of the chart, to help with the necessary transformations. And your understanding of your chart, what house is occupied by Cancer, what house is occupied by Leo, what house is occupied by Pisces. There's a trine between Cancer and Pisces. What house is occupied by Aries, the trine between Leo and Aries. What house is occupied by Aquarius? That's where Mars and Pluto are going to oppose each other. Your understanding of the links behind this, stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart, and actions in the Cancer part of the chart supporting that. Creating something new and leaning into desired energies that have been in play since March, April 2023, and are seeking some sort of completion by the end of the first week of June of 2025 in the Aries part of the chart. And then when Mars moves into Leo on April the 18th, that's supporting each other. And how does Pluto, what role has Pluto in Aquarius been playing for you that came to some sort of initial head between January 20th and February 20th of 2024? And what role does that transformation have in all this energy? Comes to a head when Mars opposes Pluto. Once all that energy is cleared and we're clear of the retrogrades and the new moon in Taurus happens, we are just moving forward for now. We're going to come back to this Pisces energy to clean it up more properly and more thoroughly and for good between September of this year and February of next year. For now, deep breath. Only a quarter of the time in March and April is behind us. We still have 6 more weeks of this to go. We've only done 2 weeks of this. We are smack dab practically in the middle of 2 eclipses. Both Mercury and Venus are retrograde. So we take a deep breath and we keep moving forward, stabilizing or concretizing ambitions in the Pisces part of the chart, and very soon, even starting later this week, moving towards creating the future state in the Aries part of the chart. But you cannot lose sight of the Pisces part of the chart in April. You can't. That is where the most important aspects are happening in April, with Mercury and Venus retrograde in Pisces, and then going direct. Mercury is going to conjunct the North Node before going direct. Venus is going to conjunct the Neptune, North Node, and then Saturn, direct, retrograde and direct. But what is the purpose of this video and the good news I'm trying to give you? Tap into the energy, tap into that Mars energy of, all right, let's go, let's pursue our goals. Let me take some action, Mars. Your Mars stuff in the Cancer part of the chart that can support and help stabilize the Pisces part of the chart after April the 18th in the Leo part of the chart, so that you can support the Aries part of the chart in that future state that is trying to be created. You have Mars support. So the energy of pursuing goals, the energy of taking action, the energy of taking action that can feed our ambitions, the energy of hunting and gathering, the energy, and this is the most important part of the energy that has been missing so far since Mars went retrograde, the energy of setting boundaries, or saying our piece, or managing ourselves through conflict. Remember, assertive, not aggressive. Now, this energy is going to be available to everybody. But we also know that depending on the situations that we're dealing with, we need to get people around the table, or we need to be able to engage in a more direct manner in order to get to a point where we can feel like, all right, matters related to the Pisces part of the chart are now stabilized, or we're moving forward, blah, 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 blah. Well, that wasn't exactly helpful, the blah, blah, blah. But you know, I think you know where. Yeah. Okay, I wanted to go ahead and alert you. You know that I've been wanting to do this Mars direct energy, and it's been building, but so far it hasn't had a sense of urgency. The other videos I've done have had more urgency. Now, both in the general sense of the word, for you to be able to take this context, and then for the rising signs. So far in the rising sign, in the membership part of the chart, I've done the videos on the new moon in Pisces, the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. And those are foundational. They're going to stay with us for a long, long time, because the Virgo Pisces eclipses continue till February 27. Right now, the next video I need to do, I was planning to move forward and do the March 29th solar eclipse in Aries video, and then I was just like, no, I need to do a video for the rising signs on this Mars energy. Where's the support coming from? What action could be contemplated in the Cancer and then the Leo parts of the chart to support what is going on? Then, both in the free part of the channel and the members part, we can start to focus on the Aries eclipse. The weekly overviews will continue, and there will be other astrological stuff that we're going to need to continue to talk about. Okay? If you found this content useful, feel free to tell your friends about it, share it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. When you subscribe, there's an option there with this bell icon. There's a wiggly bell option at the top. If you click on that, you'll be notified when I'm doing new videos. If you're interested in getting a reading from me, a personal birth chart reading, or interested in becoming a member, that information is in the description box below. How to donate to the channel is also in the description box below. There's a thanks button underneath this video. You can use that to contribute to the channel. You can contribute to the channel for free by liking this video, clicking the like button, or commenting on it, should you feel so inclined. It gives it greater circulation on YouTube. Let's see, is there anything else that I want to say that I normally say at this point or stage in the game? No, I think that's all the housekeeping. That's it, my friends. Stay on the horse. You have energy and vitality now at your disposal that you have not had since Thanksgiving. So tap into it and use it and utilize it. In 3 minutes, the sun sets, and you guys have been watching the light kind of change on me while I've been doing it. I thought Mars, I've done so many videos on Mars, and the Mars direct video is, I'm just, it's just going to take 15-20 minutes, and here we are. But I hope you found this useful and helpful, and more to follow. Take care. And as I said, the weekly overview for next week is already done for everybody 2 days ago. So do take a look at that. It's interesting with the sun and all the aspects, conjunctions he's going to be making, and the switch that happens in the middle of this week. And the conjunction with Neptune especially is something to watch out for. All right, more to follow.